In this video, I want to give you a couple of tips to help you become more patient, because you may already be realizing that because overly focusing on the short term gives you a lot of anxiety, and such an approach to the short term just gets you lower quality results. This happens across the board. And what I actually noticed anecdotally for me throughout the years, and what is universally considered correct, is that long-term approach is more prudent. You see that in the previous video with the marshmallow test, but you also see it in how decision makers like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos do their own decision making. It's all long-term focused and not giving in to the impatience and the short-termness of things. So the first thing to really realize is when you are feeling a little anxiety and a little bit of impatience, the thing to realize is sometimes just being a little bit faster is not what you need anyway. If you're a little faster, it's not going to make a difference. If you're late somewhere, just a couple of minutes difference will not actually have any impact. And if you are becoming late, you can call. There isn't a need to rush. That's the first realization, is that the value you get from rushing is very, very minimal, and very often that decreases our anxiety and impatience for things. But that's a mindset that's a little bit difficult to adopt when you're feeling impatient. When you have a little bit of anxiety, it's hard to think, oh, the long term. You're kind of taken by this impatience in the moment. So one practical thing to do is just to distract yourself. It really is, because people who aren't all that patient but have a plan B, something that they legitimately would enjoy or get benefit from doing, always have a plan B. No matter what you're going to wait for, let's say you're in traffic. If you're listening to boring things on the radio, you don't want to be there. But if you're captivated by what's on the radio, you don't want to get out of the car. Sometimes the car is more fun than wherever you're going. We've all had that where you're like, I don't want this ride to stop. I want to keep listening. Similarly, if you're waiting for something, like you're in the waiting room for a doctor's appointment, or if it's work related and you need to launch a product, sometimes there's such a rush to launch a product just to realize that if you did it a week later or 2 weeks later, you would have had a better result because you maybe rushed and your marketing wasn't ready enough, or something else wasn't ready enough, and the rushing towards that goal actually decreased the effectiveness, and then you had to do all the extra work later, and the success wasn't at the launch date. It was maybe 6 months later anyway, so it required more iterations, and the impatience and the rush usually is not warranted. It doesn't correlate to success. But again, if you're in a high pressure situation, like trying to meet a deadline at work so some launch can happen, it's difficult to adopt such a mindset. You might realize this, but it's still difficult to stop rushing. But what makes it easier is to just switch over. Instead of over focusing on one aspect of things, if you have other tasks, just realize, oh, well, while I can maybe be patient for something, because maybe I'm waiting for some design and I have a bottleneck, instead of over focusing on that and being impatient and bothering the designer and having them rush their work and creating work that's not as good, have other things to work on so that you are distracted. And when you're fully engaged in your plan B, the waiting for the plan A is not as bad. So in this video, I just wanted to give you a sense for, if you're feeling impatient, if you're in a little bit of a rush, feeling a little bit of anxiety, now you have mindsets and practical things you can do. The practical things to do is to find a good, realistic distraction. Not something that's a distraction that you don't like, but something that will actually be a high value activity for you, either interesting or practical, so that your mind will get taken off whatever the source of impatience is, and it will just become easier for you to be patient without actually becoming more patient. Whereas, of course, to become more patient, you just have to practice patience in the long term of things, in little things, waiting 1 minute, 5 minutes without your phone, so you can start fostering the skill of patience in the long term on your own, just for self-improvement, that's something we all should do. It's a good practice thing to do to foster more patience inside us. But in a practical sense, if you don't have it yet, if you're not there yet, and if you're feeling impatient, the distraction and the mindset of it's maybe not going to be that helpful to be fast on whatever you're waiting for anyway, those are the other tools to help you.